Hi everyone, Umi here, and I've recently reached AR 55, which is at official late end game. So I would like to share some tips and experience and pitfalls I've fallen for the past 5 months since I started playing Genshin Impact in October, and hopefully this will help some players new or current about the game Genshin Impact. So for the first one, let's go over a modern Chinese proverb just for the game Genshin Impact. It's called 铁打的辅助,流水的席. What does that mean? It means your supports are like steel bars, hard and impenetrable, and they'll always be there for you. While your main carry are like flowing water. They come and go as they please, and they come and go at a pretty fast pace. And you will always cheat on them. Just look at Kage, for example. As much love as he shows Kaching, there will always be other waifus. For your support, most people would tell you to leave them at 70-80 or 60-70 and they'll be good enough. That is not true. You should always level your support. Do not underestimate the damage that your support could do. Support break up to the sub DPS and support tools and healers. And usually your sub DPS are actually more important than your main carry. So for example, someone like Shangling, if you get them to level 80 and just their ults and Qs, it will provide you with a lot of damage. I've always regret not leveling all my supports up, and I've been doing it recently and they cause a lot of materials. Another example would be Xingqiu. Now I recently got him to 70 out of 80, but I've run out of books. But you want them at 80, at least. Do you need to get them to 90? No. Is it better to get them to 80-90? Yes, but you probably won't have that much materials. So get them to 80-80 is the best place for them. Your main carry. Get the two of your most favorite ones to 90. You don't need too many main carries. Now, this is very important. Do not be afraid to level your support. Because a lot of people will tell you, oh, you won't have enough resource, you won't have enough EXP books or Mora. That is not true. I just reached AR 55 recently, and if you count how many characters I have and how many high level characters I have, where at least they're at level 60 or 70 at the lowest. So I have 3 times 5, 15 plus Xingyang, 16. And only, I believe, 2 of them is level 60, the rest of them is at 70, and the other ones are at 80, and 2 of them at 90. You will have a lot of resources. Books and Mora, you could always farm them with Leyline, and if you don't waste all of your resin farming artifacts and getting a lot of garbage, then you would rather just farm EXP books and Mora to level your characters. Tip number 2. Do not force your artifacts on characters. Now, artifact farming usually start at AR 45, where you get the guaranteed gold artifact drop from all the dungeons. It is better to farm artifact for all of your characters than specifically farming one artifact to get your main carry to the highest level. That is not smart nor is it efficient. The rate of artifact drops with perfect drops is almost non-existent. It's like almost 0.003% to get a perfect drop. If you want a decent one, for example, my Ningguang Scare, energy recharge, crit damage, HP, and mastery, that is good enough. For even these stats are good enough. Don't ever try to get a perfect one. The main goal starting at AR 45 is get the main stats correct. So for your main DPS, you want the attack and whatever the element is, and then crit rate with crit damage. If your crit rate is below 50%, then get crit rate. If your crit rate is around 50 or higher, then you get crit damage for maximum DPS. Now the best ratio is 2-1, but you should just ignore all of that. As long as your crit rate is at 50%, you could just stack the rest with crit damage. It's good enough. For all of your characters, get your artifact to level 16 and get them for everyone. And when you have done that, then you get your main carry set to 20. And after that, any other dungeon you run that drop artifact, you could replace whatever that's better on the go. So for artifact sets, the sets are not actually that important. The only set you actually need is your Viridescent set for your amino characters to do swirl and to reduce defense. That is the only set that actually matters. Every other set is not important, just mix and fit for the best stats. So for example, my Fischl. Now I don't have her gears max, but what would you think would do more damage? A half-ass rolls with the set bonus, or I could filter for the best ones and you could put on whatever that's the best without any of the bonus. Your Fischl will do more damage just because of the substats. Once again, I'll say it another time, set bonus don't matter. Now number 3, for weapons. Weapon level is always more important than your character level. For any of your main carry or any of your DPS, get their weapon to at least 80. And if you can't, get them to 90. And if you have a hard time deciding, let's say for example, my Xiao is at level 80, and then I got the weapon to level 80 also. What will you do in this case if your resource is limited? Well, you will awaken both of them, and you will level the weapon to 90 first before leveling your character. Character will cost a lot more and it give you less in return, while the weapon will always give you guaranteed base stats. Or you could be like me and just leave Xiao at level 80 and get his weapon to 90. His damage will still be great, and you won't be wasting too much of your resource. And then after, if you have extra ones that you could farm up later, you could get their level to 90. Now another thing about weapons is that, as a general rule, 5 stars is always better than 4 stars. Just because of base stat difference, 5 stars will always guarantee to be always better than any of the 4 stars in game. For the best 4-star weapons, the BP banner weapon, the battle pass weapon, is usually the best 4-star weapon because those give crit rate, and crit rate is one of the most important stats in the game. It's hard to come by, and if you have crit rate on your weapon, then your artifact will be easier to farm because you won't need to worry as much for getting the mask as crit rate. So you could switch it for crit damage, where your character will do a lot more damage. For example, my Xiao's. If you look at his stats, 75% crit rate, 140 crit damage. So I did a little farming for my Xiao set, and the crit rate from the whole set of artifacts I have on him, it goes down to 33%. The weapon will give him extra 22% crit rate, and then his own ascension bonus will give an extra, but most of the other characters don't have that. Most of the other characters will have 5% base crit rate. So 5% plus 33, you'll get about 38, and if you don't have any crit rate weapon, then it'll still stay at 38. And farming for crit rate as a substat is very hard to do, and if you switch the mass over to crit rate, then you'll suffer a lot of crit damage bonus. Because if you switch the crit damage bonus over, then your crit damage right here with the set that I farmed will go down to 30. Tip number 4 would be energy recharge will always be better than damage. For example, Xingqiu and Shangling, they would almost do no damage without their Q. So if you look at my Xingqiu stat, I got him energy recharge at 224%. And with this stat, it's almost guaranteed that once he uses E, he will have his Q back. Now my Xingqiu's not farmed at all, so I'm working on it. But you always want to get Q every time it's off cooldown as a general rule in the game, because elemental reactions and Q is your most powerful skill that any character will have. So you would sacrifice damage just so that your energy recharge will be high enough so you could get your Q off cooldown. So if you look at my Xingqiu's artifact, his flower is fine, feather will always give you attack, Now my timepiece, because he doesn't have enough, I actually just gave him energy recharge on the timepiece instead of attack, because if I give him attack, then his Q won't be off cooldown and I can't use it, therefore he will do no damage. So as a general rule, spammable Q is always better than a character with high attack stats but you can't use any of your skills. Now the last thing to talk about will be the Blessing of the Wicked Moon and Battle Pass. Now, I know as a Western fan base, most people would like free to play, and free to play is almost put on a pedestal for some reason. But to actually enjoy the most gameplay, Blessing of the Wicked Moon and Battle Pass is actually well worth it for you to get. And if you average it out, because Battle Pass is 45 days, the Moon plus the Battle Pass is around $12 a month, which is a lunch. So to get the best enjoyment of the game, I say don't put too much pride in being completely free to play. So if you can, at least get the Moon and the Battle Pass. Think of it like a monthly subscription for a game like Final Fantasy XIV. Now, to some people, $12 might mean a lot to them, and for that I understand. If you really can't afford it, then absolutely don't buy it, of course. And that would be it for my 5-month experience that I'd like to share with everyone. Hopefully it helps them to enjoy the game better. And thank you everyone for listening in. Have fun and happy Chinese New Year. I hope everyone will have the best thing out of the roles and get all the characters and waifu that they want. Happy New Year.